Branko Boken is Chief of the Architecture and Engineering Center of Excellence at CISA. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
What are you seeing organizations across government doing to facilitate using security as an opportunity for innovation instead of an obstacle that they have to try to overcome?
So we're here at the event today, and the theme of the event is trust, not to be confused with zero trust, which is a very different concept. This is the trust that we want to see, right? And cybersecurity in this instance, especially when it comes to FedRAMP program and um, uh, improving the adoption of cloud services and cloud offerings, and again, specifically in federal government. I represent CISA. Our focus is securing federal government. Again, trust is that essential concept. And over years, in an effort to improve security of our information systems in the government, we were a little bit counterproductive. We eroded that trust because we made security extremely difficult and extremely expensive. We made it an obstacle to entry for, especially for smaller vendors and smaller cloud service providers, but also an obstacle for federal agencies and smaller organizations to buy those services because security became too expensive. And it doesn't have to be. We have to find the right balance. Again, security is essential. We need to remove these barriers at no cost to cybersecurity. And that's our goal. Improve cybersecurity, remove compliance. Compliance is very expensive. That's really what makes it complicated, complex, expensive, hard to achieve. There are some basic principles, cybersecurity principles we've been preaching for years, and now we really need to start implementing them. Talking about machine-to-machine communications, feeds, data visibility, operational visibility into really what's happening inside a computer network. In close to cyber relevant time, in machine readable format. So now, especially with the latest developments in AI, so we can allow machines to do a lot of analysis for humans and maybe even make decisions eventually for humans. But again, removing those paper-based, removing red tape, removing compliance, move away from managing cybersecurity by PDFs and compliance towards more effective and ultimately less expensive way, and obviously more impactful way to manage cybersecurity.
You hit on something there that I think is the missing link in a lot of the conversations that go on in the federal government about cybersecurity. It's one thing for an agency to have a list of options to choose from. It's another thing for them to actually be able to go out and buy it, to procure it and implement it. What do you think is the kind of the solution to that missing link, either a tool that agencies have available to them from an acquisition perspective, or maybe that they should have available to them that needs to come from somewhere?
It's a great question. Again, acquisition is not my forte. From a cybersecurity perspective, having some level, and again, going back to the theme of today's event,
Mhm.
right? Having that trust, having a way to communicate the level of assurance that that vendor and that particular offering and that particular product can provide in terms of cybersecurity, so that when customer goes in, they know they have a sort of a stamp of approval. They know what to expect. They know what, not necessarily how secure or less secure. That's really a touchy topic, right? We can say our product is the most secure just because we are doing something, but letting potential customers know what you are doing as a vendor, letting your customer have visibility, and showing them and demonstrating that you are willing to provide that data to your customer in advance, and obviously at the time they're a customer, is essential. And promoting some of those things could be a very powerful tool for vendors to promote adoption of their products.
Another concept you touched on, the machine to machine
Right.
concept, a practitioner, a cyber practitioner in the government told me not too long ago that she thinks that's the biggest breakthrough in cybersecurity in the time that she's been in government, 10, 12 years. Does that make sense to you? Does that sync with what you're seeing from your position at CISA, that the ability of humans to not have to touch every single interaction has really generated a lot of opportunity for agencies?
So humans simply don't have capacity to process the amount of information that comes out of modern computer systems, of modern computer networks, right? Expecting humans to review every single event and then act upon it, make a decision, it's never been feasible, but right now it's just simply crazy, right? So we absolutely need to make sure that we have machine-to-machine feeds, that we let that data be processed by a machine, that the data is available in machine-readable format. But it's also important to have that data available in, again, what we like to call cyber-relevant time. It doesn't mean it has to be real time, depending on what we are looking at. Sometimes if we need data for cyber investigations, that data can be available 2-3 weeks later after the fact, after an event has taken place. So cyber relevant doesn't necessarily means immediately, but when we need it, having that data is also critical. Doing this the traditional way, some organizations are managing their security. I already mentioned that by managing PDFs, that's not the way to do it. It takes a lot of time to produce these PDFs, and then you have to send them and ship them off to someone. Someone needs to open them and look at them. That is not feasible. That's not happening. It's not possible anymore. If we are serious about cybersecurity, we need to enable those machine feeds. We need to have data in machine-readable format, and we need to let machines, again, hinting on recent developments in AI, but we need to let machines do their jobs.
What do you think the next level or next generation of visibility and accountability is for agencies about their security postures? Because it strikes me that compliance was getting at those things. Everybody agrees with you that I know of that
Right.
compliance is not the point, but it strikes me that visibility and capability are really the what you're going for.
Correct. And again, your viewers are probably familiar with some of the efforts of OMB and CISA on actually requiring federal agencies to log certain events and store those logs. We are now iterating, and we're in kind of a second round of iteration of that original approach. We've learned a lot, again, just because machines create so much data. Um, we are now learning better ways and better things that we need to focus on, better ways to collect, to store, to process, to analyze that data. So again, it's an iterative process. As systems evolve, they will produce more data. We already know humans can have limits, and those limits have been exceeded a long time ago. So finding the right balance, finding the right telemetry that we need to capture, that we need to preserve, that we need to analyze, that we need to focus on versus noise is really the effort that we will be working in the next few years.
Is the type of data that's valuable versus the type of data that's noise changing over time as a result of changes in the threat landscape or the infrastructures of agencies or whatever reason? Or has the type of data that's valuable to agencies stayed pretty constant over time?
That's a great question. I'd say that there is some baseline telemetry that's been around forever, and we will always need it as the information systems in our landscape evolves. Also, the type of events that we need to capture, the type of data that is associated with those events needs to be reevaluated periodically.
Over time, we can talk about the details of FedRAMP, but the broader concept is how do agencies get some sense of what their security postures are and how well they're doing at defending themselves? What do you think are the really critical elements for agencies to think about to do that moving forward versus, and we touched on it earlier, compliance versus
Right.
capability?
And that's kind of, again, the theme of today's event,
Mhm.
and the themes of what you and I have been talking about is really, and again, CISA and FedRAMP team are working closely. We've had really great relationship with that team for the past 10 years, as long as I've been at CISA, and we've been working closely. So everything that FedRAMP is doing is really in close coordination with CISA and the other way around. And really, what we want to do and what we want to see to help federal agencies, to help federal enterprise, and ultimately help our citizens and maintain that trust the citizens must have in their government. And it can be boiled down to a few priorities that, at least in my mind, we will continue to work on, and will greatly improve that trust. And again, going back to operational visibility, having way better operational visibility into what is happening inside not inside the federal information system, inside the infrastructure that is supporting federal information systems. Agencies having that visibility, giving them visibility, and obviously CISA assisting agencies in detecting anomalous event, in analyzing anomalous event, analyzing incidents. So that is one way. Another area is CISA has a program called SCUBA. We have demonstrated that we can develop secure configuration guidelines and templates for major Microsoft and Google cloud-based products. Unfortunately, that is a very big effort. It's hard to scale it to every single cloud provider, and it wouldn't be right for us to do. So the next step is really to find a way to promote development of these baselines, secure configuration baselines, by individual cloud service providers, and giving them and offering them to federal agencies or their customers in general. Again, everything that CISA does in federal space have significant effect outside of government. It affects other industries because a lot of other industries copy our model and do what we want to do. And then finally, again, all the work that CISA is doing with federal government on cyber directives and instructing federal agencies to take certain actions when it comes to response to either cyber events or cyber incidents or vulnerabilities that we are discovering, working through the FedRAMP team, working with our industry partners on adopting and promoting those directives in their infrastructure. And finally, I do need to plug also our Secure by Design program. Again, the whole idea is organizations all over the world spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of resources fighting and remediating vulnerabilities. Most of those vulnerabilities are actual defects that are easily preventable before those applications, before the software is actually released to production, released to their customers. And now we are working, CISA is championing this program. We are working with all major software developers across the world to help them build their software better before it goes out, to reduce the number of defects that software ships with and reduce the burden on their customers to not only pay for software, but then spend a lot of time securing that software.